Hey everyone, and welcome back to What After Dentistry. Lately, we have been covering various dentistry related topics with respect to Australia, like practicing dentistry in Australia both at the undergraduate and at the master's level. We also gave you an insight about a trusted organization in India which helps you in both the application and the preparation process of Australian dental exams, and not just with general dentist licensing, but they also help you with applying for dental hygienist and oral therapist in Australia. So we thought, why not move a step ahead and cover the scope of healthcare fields in Australia? So here we are discussing the scope and opportunities in the field of healthcare management and public health in Australia. To discuss this today, we have with us Dr. Pri Bhatt, currently working as a manager with Dental Health Services, Victoria, Melbourne. She completed her BDS in 2011 and then completed her MDS in oral surgery in 2015. When she moved to Australia, she wanted to pursue a course which would broaden her horizon in healthcare and help her exploring opportunities across the globe. And what better than pursuing MHA, MPH? With a zeal to upskill herself and keep abreast with the industry, she has completed various certifications in healthcare, along with publishing 4 to 5 papers in her name. Let's understand the application process and the scope and opportunities in healthcare management in Australia. Hi, Dr. Pri. Welcome you on our channel, What After Dentistry, to talk about the scope and opportunities of MHA or MPH in Australia after BDS. So, welcome you once again.
Thanks for having me, Shireen.
So, before I get into the details of what is the application process, how are the opportunities in Australia, I would like to know why did you choose MHA or MPH in Australia? Generally, people want to practice dentistry, and you've done BDS, MDS, and then you shifted your career. So, why did you choose this field?
I think I was practicing as a general dentist and as a specialist after I finished my master's, but I just felt that I wasn't doing enough justice to 8 years of my student life, and that this one patient at a time approach was very slow, um, especially if I had to make a difference at a community level. I started exploring some options overseas, and I felt that, having an international qualification which would be valid across the world would be something that wouldn't really restrict me in terms of what I could do, and that would potentially open more avenues for me. So MPH and MHA, let's just look at it as two separate courses, are probably like 2 years approximately each. If I thought I would choose, if I had to do one course at a time, it would have probably taken me 4 years. So I thought, let's just choose dual masters. That way, it's a 2.5 year course. I get two, qualifications, and then it probably opens me up to, better opportunities as well overall. So I thought the combination was a very rare one. It was something that was very exciting, and essentially, if one extra semester gets you an additional degree, hey, why not?
Yeah, correct. Absolutely. So it's really nice. I mean, like, and as you correctly mentioned, when we start practicing as a dentist, you generally approaches like one patient at a time. But then, yes, if you want to, increase your revenues, or you want to have more of, you want to work at a community level, I think this is a better option to go with. Yes, correct. So please guide our audience in terms of what is the application process when it comes to applying for MHA or dual masters, as you mentioned, in Australia after BDS.
So I think I made a few dot points, and I thought I shouldn't be missing anything whilst because I think the process for me in itself was quite overwhelming. And the first thing that I would recommend to anyone and everyone watching this is plan well ahead, and know how much you can actually spend on a course. How long are you willing to study or experience, the whole student life in a country? Do you wish to settle down permanently in that country? Do you wish to go somewhere regional? Are you someone who's been like someone like me who grew up in Delhi? I was like, oh, I need to stay somewhere metro, so probably Victoria or Melbourne was my first choice. But things like that, you've got to make sure you've got your statement of purpose. Do you have Do you have friends who've managed to go overseas? Can you find someone on LinkedIn who can help you? Are there any agents that you can get in touch with that can help you write a statement of purpose, letter of recommendations? Like, do you have some amazing mentors that you might have worked with in your field of expertise who might be able to give you some letters? English language proficiency is a very important one, because I think that's a very interesting one, because people have got different perceptions. Like, I've had people who've come up to me and they've said, "Oh, there's no way I can get an 8 in PT, or there's no way I can get an 8 in IELTS, but IELTS is my only opportunity." But if you start looking at avenues, PT is an alternate avenue to IELTS, and not a lot of people know about it. So I think get to know things that are required for you to be able to get into a university that you really want to be at. Get your transcripts well in time, get your work experience from every other place that you have worked at. Look at the application fee, because that's also going to be very different for every university. And I think something that's changed through COVID is that most of the universities have waived off that fee. So that's probably a win-win for most of the students at this point in time. Make a list of colleges, make a list of courses, look at the semester start dates, look at the fees, like compare fees from a regional university to a university which is in metro. See what works better for you. Look at the options, like, does this university offer me a scholarship? If it doesn't, how much would it cost me? um, do you want to do something in a research mode? Because I was someone who ended up doing research in India, and I wanted to be able to do this research here as well. So I went down that path, but it might be something totally different from for someone else. So I think, but that's totally something. I mean, you've got to consider when you're looking at those options. Not every course is a course that helps you go down the path of research. So if that's something you want to explore, then think about that. Um, and I think student visa requirements are another thing that I wanted to point out, because um, that may vary across different countries. I know it's different for Australia, and it's not probably as hard since COVID has hit, but that's definitely something you've got to think at the back of your mind. There's a lot of open days that the universities host in different countries. So like Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, these are major states where IDP will hold these sessions where there's university representatives. Try and get in touch with the university representatives. You can get a lot of information from them firsthand. And at the end of the day, another very important thing you probably don't do well enough in India is your professional resume. I would very strongly encourage, try and get more and more people to read your resume, because every single time someone reads your resume, they'll point something different out. And try and limit it to, let's say, I would ideally say 3 to 4 pages, because I know there's people who've got like 10 to 12 pages of resume. No one wants to know that much. Try and keep it short, sharp, crisp, what's very relevant to what you're applying for. Um, and I think another thing is tickets. Tickets can be quite expensive. So once you get your visa, try and get your tickets sorted as quickly as possible. Um, any country that and this is not per se for Australia, I think this is a very general thing that I would want to point out. Every country gives you a different experience. So look at the living cost of every country. Like UK might be a lot more expensive than Melbourne, and Melbourne might be very expensive to Sydney. So when you look at different states, also look at the living costs associated, the accommodation options you've got associated. There's another very important aspect, that's health cover. I think again that's very variable across different countries, but that's a mandatory thing that you need before you get on board with any of this. And the scope, of course, I think long term when you look at it, because I think another lesson that I've learned, and this is through my journey in last whatever number of years I've been here, I've met people who have chosen a different course when they came on board, and then they switched to a different course. And I think it took them longer. It was very disruptive. It was financially a big implication, mentally, going through different universities, trying to get out of one university, trying to go into the other university, trying to get the paperwork moved across. Very, very time consuming. So I think someone said this to me once, and I think it stuck into my brain, and that is, do it once, but do it right. So try and get every information that you can before you jump into what I want to do, and look at the job market outside. Try and link with some people on LinkedIn to see, what happens after you graduate from this course, because there's no point of, it's funny how you say it, but there has to be a return on investment. I know we don't often think about that, and I think this is something we need to really, really think. So plan well, in short.
Yes, absolutely. I think so many pointers you've given, and these are really important points that one should keep in mind while they're planning for, pursuing a course outside the country. Yes, absolutely. So all your audience, make sure that you have these points written down somewhere, because these are really very, very important points, and some of the points are very new for us also too. Like you mentioned about IELTS and the other English proficiency exam, as you mentioned correctly, nobody knows about that, the other examination that you're talking about. So yes, thank you very much for giving us such important, points that one should keep in mind. So you talked about scholarships, you talked about the time and the cost, that is involved in basically completing a particular course. We would like to know a little bit more about that. How much, like on an average, how much do you suggest, or what is from your experience, how much is the time or the cost that is involved? And do the universities, do they provide scholarships?
So the duration, really, I think everyone's got a different journey, but let's just say an average application process, give yourself good 6 to 8 months. Because it's not all, I've dreamt of this and I'm going to get in tomorrow. That's, all the things that I listed in the last section includes all those things that you need to get before you even start applying. So, let's say, having a professional resume or getting those transcripts from the university. Like for me, it took me good 2 months to try and get hold of someone at the university so that I could get my transcripts out, I could get them verified. These processes take time. So the more time you give yourself, the better equipped you will be with most of these things. And it wouldn't be as overwhelming for you at that point in time. That's with regards to the application process. So give yourself good 6 to 8 months. I think the total time and the total cost. So time I answered. I think cost perspective, again, it would be very variable across different universities. But if you ask me, like the top-notch university, probably Melbourne University would cost you, and possibly just talking a random figure, but if you want me to give you an estimate in Indian currency, any course would possibly cost you 40 to 45 lakh. This is like a minimum. I'm telling you, a minimum. When you look at living expenses, travel expenses, food expenses, I think it might sound overwhelming, but 65 lakh is something that you would hit for a 2-year course, including every single thing that I've spoken about. I think another very important thing to highlight is, do not let the value, prevent you from dreaming, because I think you do get the opportunity to work hard and get that money back. So I would encourage people who even want to look at, getting education loan. It is doable. And I think, yes, you might have to work twice as hard, but you can get rid of that loan eventually. So don't let that be, don't let that dollar amount, or don't let that, monetary value prevent you from dreaming big.
Correct, correct. And the scholarships, are these provided by the university?
So every university has got different set of criteria in terms of how and what they evaluate you against when it comes to scholarships. So I know a lot of universities would say, and I think this was a big challenge for me, which I don't know how many people listening into this one would be probably resonating well with. So in dentistry, if you look at your bachelor's, you might not score an average of 85%. That's very high, right? That's very high. But for let's say from a business perspective, I had friends who had done bachelors in business from Delhi University, and their average cutoff was like 80-85%. So for them to get into masters, 85%, 80%, get your scholarship, 15 to 20% scholarship was easy. It was just easy. But for people who come from other professional courses where maybe the best person in the rank would probably get like 70-72%, it might be a bit harder. But I think certain universities will put things into context, and you might be able to secure 15 to 20% of your feedback via scholarship. And I would also recommend, there's other scholarships that Australia offers, which you can probably look up in terms of international, students and the scholarships that are available. I know there's a very interesting scholarship that's just come out, all thanks to Shah Rukh Khan, that now allows people to do PhD, and it covers all your research, living expenses, your research fee and stuff. So there's things like that that might not be very relevant to your field, but then securing that amount can still help you in your sort of discipline.
Correct, absolutely. And how soon can a person apply for these for these courses? Like in the internship, can I utilize my internship year to basically start with the application process?
I think again that's very variable across different universities. So certain universities will look at your professional course. They'll actually say, "Yep, this is quite relevant to what they were doing." But I reckon if I just look at a public health and a health administration perspective, I reckon they need something. One, obviously, a degree that's equivalent to your bachelor degree, an Australian equivalent of a bachelor degree. But they usually would recommend having 2 years of minimum relevant work experience. Now, it is up to you how you justify work experience. You can say, yes, 1 year of my internship was work experience because I was, simultaneously working at a clinic. Or you could look at, they do appreciate the idea of part-time as well. So, whilst you were studying, if you were working part-time as well, they would consider experiences like that. But absolutely, by all means, when you go onto the university website, have a read through the course requirements, and that's what's going to tell you if they actually need that. And I know there's a lot of maybe not the big shot universities, but maybe there's other institutes that don't look at it as a prerequisite. So I think it's a matter of comparing and contrasting against what you want and what their requirements are.
Correct.
I might just add on to another thing which not a lot of people know about, and that is recognition of prior learning. So, let's say you look at a course which has got biostats and epidemiology as 2 subjects here. And let's say you've done biostats and epidemiology as a part of your coursework, in your qualification in India. You could claim credits, which means that you might be exempted from doing those 2 subjects. And financially, if you look at it, it means you're paying less because you don't have to pay for those 2 subjects. So that's something which is worth looking into in terms of the courses that you're applying for. What are the units that are core? What are the units that are elective? Is there something that you've done that you can claim credits against? Because that saves you time, that saves you money.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good point to know. Yeah. So moving forward, we would like to know, are there any, apart from the English proficiency exams that we are aware of, are there any other exams that one has to sit for, like maybe a GMAT or something? I'm not very sure on that, but yeah, you could guide on that.
So essentially, there's no exams that you would have to sit for except for like IELTS or PTE. PTE, like I said, is sort of equivalent of IELTS, but or as I say, it is a tad bit easier than IELTS. So that's an exam that I would highly recommend people to, if you've been struggling with your IELTS score for a long time, I would recommend to do PTE. And I don't think there's a specific requirement in terms of any other tests that you might have to appear for. But yes, trying to get your paperwork in would be really, really crucial from most of the perspective. Yeah.
What are some of the good colleges that one can apply for, either for health administration or public health?
So I sort of made a list, but I think it depends on what state you want to pick. So if I look at Melbourne, you've got University of Melbourne, which is one of the best universities. You've got ACU. ACU, I think, is one of those universities which their public health program is really, really good, but is also very well, like financially, if you compare different colleges, I think it's a pretty well-placed university in terms of the the subsidies that it gets from the government as well. So I think the costs are comparatively much more, what's the right word? I think they're much better. There's Monash University, there's Deakin University, there's La Trobe, of course. When you look at Sydney, you've got University of Wollongong, you've got University of New South Wales, Sydney University, Griffith University, University of Western Sydney. Adelaide, you've got University of Adelaide. Again, something for you to consider if you want to move to a state which is a bit more quiet and easygoing, then possibly Adelaide. Western Australia, you've got University of Western Australia, really good top-notch universities. Across Queensland include QUT, Queensland University of Technology, James Cook University. So I think if you look at different states, they've got similar courses to offer. But for me, what I thought was, what's a different kind of a course that they're offering? So, Deakin, for example, will offer you dual masters as well, and I think they offer health service management and health and business administration, together. So I think look at those things because they will. I think when you look at it from an industry perspective, it improves your chances of being able to apply for different job types as well.
Correct. So just to understand and compile everything, basically one has to look at the state that they want to, pursue the course from, and then choose the university, choose the course which can provide you a dual kind of a course, right? Like you have done health administration, public health together. So something like which increases an avenue in the industry, something of that sort should be chosen.
I think, Shireen, it worked well for me. I wouldn't necessarily say that everyone should, go down the same path, but I think I was looking for, and maybe because of the background that we come from, right? Like you look at dentistry, everywhere no matter if I go to US, if I go to UK, I've got to sit for an exam. I can't just get in. I have to get myself registered. If I was in medicine, I would still have to do some exams. I think I thought to myself, what is this one qualification? No matter where I take it to, no matter where I travel, no matter where I go, they'll say, yep, you can get a job. Because at the end of the day, I think, life, you just don't know what might happen to you tomorrow, and you just don't know where you might be thrown into. So I think you've got to be prepared for everything, and that's how I look at it. But absolutely, by all means, I've had people who were very sure that they wanted to study nursing. They got into nursing. They did, bachelor's of nursing, got a job. It really depends on what you want and what your expectation is out of something as well. So think of long term as well. That's definitely something I would recommend, because we're usually so focused on short term goals that we take decisions that eventually, long term, when we look back, we're like, oh, what was I thinking? So plan well ahead, I would say that definitely.
Yes, absolutely correct. Yes. So now understanding the opportunities. So what are the opportunities or avenues that open up for a person who's coming from a health or from a medical or a dental background and then doing MHA or MPH in Australia?
Um, I think you've got a couple of options. First, of course, would be if you still want to continue doing what you love, and if that's dentistry or that's medicine, you are able to sit for your. So, from a dentistry perspective, you're able to sit for your ADC Part 1, Part 2. And as soon as you clear both the exams, you can just get yourself registered as a dentist here, and you can continue going down that path. You look at medicine, they've again got AMC Part 1, Part 2. But I think the difference between AMC and ADC is that AMC, as soon as you finish Part 1, you're still able to work in some capacity whilst you do your Part 2. So I think from a medicine perspective, it's a bit more easier as compared to dentistry. That's if you just want to stick to what you were doing. But if you look at the student life, then you've got a lot of other courses that might even provide you pathway to permanent residency. Let's say nursing, social work, health informatics. I think is another course that's been very discussed. And I think given the complexity of the current environment we are at, and cyber attacks and stuff, coding and coding across health organizations has become something that we've started talking more about. So I think health informatics is again fantastic. It's a very new area that people are wanting to play with. So I think that's another alternate career option. When you manage to finish your public health or health administration, you can work at different hospitals, you can work at community dental clinics, you can work at different NGOs. You have got the opportunity to even get into like very core business, which means you can get into epidemiology, you can get into statistics. There's a lot of public health centers that are opening up as well. So you can be a public health officer, you can get into data analysis as well. So and these data analysts that we've got nowadays, they are just looking at health related data. So it depends on, I think the options are multiple. It's just, what you've done and what skills can you take to this job that you want to eventually do. But
Correct.
absolutely, there's multiple options out there.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So next, I would like to know, like, are there any specific skills that you would recommend freshers to basically, they should be well aware of before they basically get into this masters?
Um, I think I've got a very general tip or advice. I think do as much research as possible before you come. Don't think that this is going to be an easy path. Definitely not. I think it's very easy to look at someone's social media profile and say, oh, they're having fun in US, UK, I don't know, Australia. This is fun, Canada. Let's just do it for the experience. I think do it for the right reason. Know what you want, know where you want to get to, and have a plan. Like, despite of the fact that things can go wrong, having a plan gives you the energy to keep going. And you've got to stay dedicated and focused if you want to make it big. So there's no shortcuts. And yes, working hard will help you get to the results that you want to achieve. So don't let anyone else's journey demotivate you, or don't let the financial factor not let you dream big. I think do all of that, but make sure that you stay committed. Make sure that no matter what happens, no matter how hard it gets here, you've got it in your mind that I can't go back. I've got to finish what I started. And I think if you've got that sort of a mindset, no matter what you get thrown into, no matter how alienated this place makes you feel, I think you will make it through.
Correct, correct. And what challenges one can face during the application process?
Um, I think applications often can get rejected for reasons such as they might not feel that you've been very genuine or open in terms of your work experience. There is a very small possibility, but it does happen, that they might get in touch with people who you've claimed to be working with. And if that's incorrect or false, or if you've misled them, then you're just starting on a bad note. There's no way you can get into that university. Other things are, if you've had your visa rejected from a different country, they would probably scrutinize it a bit more. If they feel like you're coming from, let's say, a nursing background, and you've applied for, I don't know, I'm trying to think. Or maybe let's say you've come from an IT background and you've applied for nursing. They'll just say, oh, this doesn't sort of match, unless you have a statement of purpose where you've sort of made that connection as to why you're looking at moving into a different field, and that sort of sticks with the intention of you switching career path. Because at the end of the day, yes, a lot of people do things for permanent residency, but let's be honest, like, these people have looked at immigration processes for years. So, don't think that you're not going to be caught. Try and do the right thing, and try and, try and not make up anything, because they're going to find out. They're absolutely, at some stage or the other, they're going to find out. So don't muck up any of your documentation. Don't, tell someone, or just, if you get that phone call, just lie about it. No, there's at some stage through the process, you will get caught out. And that's just going to be, you're going to feel miserable about doing that. So try and be clear, transparent. Talk to your agents if you're coming through an agent. If you're not coming through an agent, talk to your friends who might be at a different university in a different state, because most of the universities will have certain processes that would be stock standard. For example, statement of purpose. And I'm sure there's people who you can reach out to on LinkedIn as well that would be very happy to guide you through the statement of purpose process as well. So I think there's avenues. It's just trying to connect with the right people as well, and finding out what their experiences have been.
Correct, correct. And talking about the opportunities outside Australia. So suppose I pursue this course from Australia, how are the job opportunities outside, or if I even want to come back to India?
I definitely think, because I'll be very honest with you, a lot of my friends through COVID had to go back to India. So, and they've all been able to secure jobs back home. So I don't think, I think having an international qualification has definitely been a blessing for them in different ways. And it's the experience that they might have had here working with different health organizations that you can then take back to your home country. You can implement those ideas at a local level and see how big an impact it makes in a developing country. Another thing that I think, now that I've said developing country, what I would definitely want to point out at is if you're looking after a very raw experience, stick to India and probably, have your public health done in India, because that will give you a very raw and a, developing country sort of a perspective. Um, when you move to Australia, I think, one of the first units you get exposed to is Australian healthcare system.
Yeah.
So I think part of your brain just goes, whoa, this is just nothing, nothing to compare to the health system that I've been, living with. So I think there's a lot of differences. There's very few similarities. It's like unlearning and relearning. So be open to that as well, because certain things will catch you off guard. You'll be like, oh, I've never heard of things such as Medicare. I don't know what co-payment fees, those kind of things will be new to you. If you're moving through, let's say from Australia to Canada, possibly a lot of those things will still make sense, because they're developed countries. So I think third world country experience versus first world country experience would be very different. But I do think no matter what you study and no matter where you study, there's a lot of skills that you gain that are quite transferable across different industries. So let's say communication skill, that's something that's going to help you no matter what country you go to. So developing that kind of those kind of handy skill sets as well, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, correct. Right to know. And these are very, very good points that you have mentioned, that working on those skills which are common and transferable and can help you to get a job in whichever, part of the world you want to get into. Yes, correct. So, what is the biggest advantage that you have gained while doing or while being a part of this particular, course, or even in this field?
um I think I was very lucky to. I remember there was a phase through my journey where I went to my course coordinator and I said to him, I was like, well, everyone's switching courses and everyone's looking at permanent residence. I keep thinking, why am I? What's the point? And he just looked at me and he said, was that the first reason you intended to apply to Australia? Like, because you wanted to settle in Australia? And I said, oh, actually, no. And he said, so why did you choose public health? And I said, because I wanted to be able to do something at a community level. Like, I was tired of doing one on one, exactly what I said. And that's when it hit me. I had just answered my question. I think it's so easy to get distracted by what people are doing and, you know, um, how things are working for someone else and they're not working for you. And I think I got so caught up in the entire process that was happening around my friend circle and how they were doing things and how I was stuck doing a course which probably didn't have a pathway to permanent residency. I was ready to even switch courses like mid semester. I wasn't even ready to see that I had come so far. I had finished 1.5 years of my qualification, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I should switch. So that thing hit me hard. Like, don't forget the intent of what you were wanting to pursue. Don't let your focus, don't let other things affect your focus. And there's things work out eventually. Like, if you're willing to work hard, I think Australia, I can very strongly say Australia is one of those countries where if you're willing to work hard, you will get a lot of opportunities. But yes, you've got to put yourself out there and you've got to take some challenges. There's going to be certain risks that you would be taking, and things might not work out 100% based on what you thought. But that's fine. There's always a plan B. Hey, you can work around different things that get thrown at you. Life's not always going to be very stable. So yeah, I think you've just got to keep moving on and telling yourself to constantly, remind yourself what was the reason that you first chose to move from India.
Correct. And this brought me to, to the last part of our session today, where you've already given us so many take-home messages. But one last tip or advice that you would like the, graduates to stick to.
I think I did say a lot, but I would just sort of wrap it off by saying, have faith. Things take time, and big things especially take time. Not everything changes in a day, and you're not going to achieve everything in a day. It's a gradual process. It's a slow process. You will feel defeated. You will feel tired, but at the end of the day, when you're on that podium and you're receiving that qualification, all of that hard work, all of that stress, the whole journey just makes more sense. And if you're lucky enough, which I wasn't, but who knows, maybe listening to this, if you've got someone who comes here and graduates and they've got their parents sitting there, no matter how much they might have invested and no matter how much they might have been against your decision of moving overseas, I think when they see you receiving that qualification, I think that that confidence and that feeling of pride just multiplies. So I think it's dream big, but be ready to sort of face difficult situations and challenges. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good piece of advice that one should definitely follow when they are trying to, make changes in their career or move outside India. Because I'm sure moving out from your own home country is not easy. It's not you generally just take a decision because everybody is going. Now it's like everybody's going, okay, let's also plan to go. But the life outside India, because you have to deal with other people, it's a different culture altogether. It's not that easy. But yes, like you mentioned, dream big and be ready to face all the challenges or difficulties that life throws at you. So thank you so very much for joining us today and giving us all these very important pointers that one should look at, and very, very good important take home messages. Thank you very much for sharing all the insights.
All good, Shireen. Thank you for having me again. And if you've got any questions, you can probably shoot it through my LinkedIn. So, yeah.
Sure. So I will be linking down your LinkedIn profile in the video description for the audience if they want to connect with you and ask more questions on that. I think that should be fine. So all you audience, thank you very much for patiently listening. If you have any other, question or more detailed questions that you would want to ask Dr. Pri, you can always connect with her on LinkedIn and find out more about the course or how life is in Australia. Thank you very much once again. I will now sign off. And before I do that, please subscribe to our channel. It's absolutely free. Like and share this video because this might help out somebody who's planning to do a master's in health administration or public health in Australia after BDS or MDS. I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, bye and good luck.